Well, it's that time of the year again. Festival of the Lost is upon us. Exciting, right? Not really. You see, today I want to talk about the history of Festival of the Lost, both in Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, and hone in on why this event and other Destiny events in general seem to have just lost that wow factor. Now understand, guys, this is an important topic to me. I have played many MMORPGs over the years, and holiday events are some of the most important events in any MMO, and Bungie needs to take it more seriously. Now, some of you are going to argue that Destiny events have always been overhyped and never offered much in terms of content or replayability. And that is a fair point. But if you played Destiny 1, you'll remember the excitement of dancing in the tower with other Guardians. Giant dance parties were the highlight of events, even when you had to purchase these emotes with real money, just like we do today. So let's just start from the beginning. Destiny 1. The very first Halloween celebration in Destiny wasn't Festival of the Lost. In October 2014, Bungie added just a small Halloween event where they added Jack-o'-lantern pumpkin helmets as a consumable. That if you equipped them in the tower and visited Xur, it would allow you to buy the Flight of Shadows transmat effect, a spawn animation that created bats that flew around your Guardian. Bungie also added 4 new sparrows to the game, or at least that's what we thought. Those 4 sparrows were actually just a leak that sprung out at the same time as the Halloween event did, and only one of them actually made it to the live game, which was the S30 tumbler renamed to the EV30 tumbler. The first trick sparrow that you can only get by purchasing the Dark Below expansion before January 15, 2015. It wasn't until next year where we'd actually see Festival of the Lost in its first iteration. Now, to fully understand player sentiment surrounding Festival of the Lost, I think it's important to understand the history of Eververse as well, because the two were very closely tied together. Eververse was introduced in Destiny 1 October 13th, 2015. Now, not much was in the store at that time, just some emotes, and that's it. The community reception was mixed. Some worried about the future of microtransactions and how they would affect the health of the game. But the consensus among most players was it was somewhat harmless for the time being. We went into details surrounding this topic in our History of Destiny 1 video, so if you want to go and check that out and take a stroll down memory lane, feel free to do that. Contrary to how events are advertised these days, the Festival of the Lost was not announced before its arrival. On October 26, 2015, the community was taken by complete surprise when they logged into the tower to spooky decorations, new Halloween quests, and a plethora of new cosmetics and emotes. Yes, many of these items did require you to purchase the equivalent of loot boxes in the store, but Bungie allowed players to earn 4 masks via short delivery quests in the tower. There was no special activity, just running around the tower and getting candy. For those who did buy more masks and emotes from Eververse, as we mentioned earlier, you got to participate in the Destiny 1 tower dance parties that were the thing in Destiny. Having a new cool dance to show off to your fire team and other players, while a small change today was a game changer back in Destiny 1. We should also mention the blue flaming skull mask that everyone wanted that year. It was an animated mask that in order to get, you either had to get a lucky drop or buy masks from Eververse until you got it. Now, the year after Festival of the Lost returned once more in Destiny 1 on October 25th, 2016, some of the highlights of this year's event were another flaming mask, new exotic ornaments, and the super black shader that could be earned via trading raisins from Eris Morn. This was a coveted item, and to this day in Destiny 2, people long for another completely black shader. The event itself was more integrated in-game, with quests that took you out into the game world, and a spooky version of Trials of Osiris on Cauldron with no radar, no respawns, and spiders that would randomly crawl on your screen. Now, this was also the year you started to see some pushback from the player base in regards to microtransactions. With so many of the new masks locked behind a paywall, with only one guaranteed Treasure of the Lost, which dropped items otherwise locked behind Eververse, and not enough new content to justify the extra money being spent, people weren't as enthused as the previous year to dish out the extra cash, coining the nickname Festival of the Costs. Dude, some of you forgot about that, right? Now, in Destiny 2, the transition actually marked a long hiatus for Festival of the Lost, which would not return until after its release of Forsaken in 2018. This marked the first time we received an event to grind for rewards. The Infinite Forest was revamped as the Haunted Forest and required you to progress forward by defeating waves of enemies. You had 15 minutes to clear as many paths as possible, and the event would become progressively harder, with negative modifiers being added as you went further and further. All the while, players were chased by a giant axe-wielding knight, which just added to the spookiness, because he was hard as hell to see. Now, this version of Festival of the Lost ran for 3 years. The first year, Horror Story was the main draw. The next year, Braid Tech Werewolf was added. Both of those were 450 auto rifles, and we weren't even in a 450 round per minute auto rifle meta, so not necessarily a lot of hype behind that. Not sure what Bungie was going for. And then the next year, no new weapon was added. It was just previous rewards, but with new roles. There were also changes made to the gameplay loop, material grind each year, but honestly, they really aren't worth explaining here, guys. Just different currencies that you use to acquire weapons. Bungie did take some feedback from the previous years, making almost all masks accessible for free just by playing the event, and keeping monetization tied to emotes, ships, sparrows, ghosts, etc. Now for the last 2 years. Festival of the Lost has again completely changed. Last year in 2021, we had the first armor vote between monsters and Dino to determine which armor set concept Bungie would develop for Festival of the Lost. Dinos won, ushering in not only those armor sets, but the new pulse rifle Jurassic Green. The new activity was Haunted Lost Sectors, where you have to kill headless knights to manifest pages you earn in other activities. This year, we have the same event except with the mech armor, and of course the new Macabre sniper rifle. And I know I'm saying that wrong, I don't care. If you haven't noticed by now, Bungie has been theming the armor and new weapons together each year, which is pretty awesome. But we have to admit that the holiday events have been lacking. Some would say it's because Bungie doesn't surprise us anymore. The launch of the original Festival of the Lost was a genuine surprise, and we enjoyed that. And the most surprising thing that happened this season was actually the surprise anime sound effect when firing the new Macabre sniper rifle. And not that I don't like the sound, but when that is like the highlight for a holiday event, to me that's a problem. Now it's hard to be surprising with the holiday event considering everyone is expecting it. It's Halloween or it's Christmas. We're all expecting a holiday event because it's the holidays. The problem with Haunted Lost Sectors to me is that they're just not scary. You kill the same boss at least 10 times before the actual boss even spawns in. None of these bosses burst from the shadows or really pose any major threat. The Lost Sectors themselves don't even seem that spooky. And say what you want to say about the Infinite Forest, at least the Infinite Forest during Festival of the Lost had that spooky vibe to it. On top of that, Glenn has voice lines after you spawn each boss in these Haunted Lost Sectors, and it just gets old very quickly. Also, the event cards. While they do simplify the challenges for the events, they come across as greedy and just another way for Bungie to dip into their player base's wallets. Think about it this way. We now have an event for each season, each with an event card that was just added this summer. To upgrade this event card, it costs 1,000 silver, the same price as an entire season. You're not required to purchase it, but the fact that you haven't is in your face while you're trying to complete challenges for the entire event. Now, my point isn't that charging for cosmetics is necessarily wrong, but if you keep increasing the amount of money and items locked behind silver purchases without giving an extra incentive to play the event, then you're insulting your player base and there's zero reason to play. The new sniper rifle is cool, and that's something you can grind for, but many people are happy with the role that was given out. And we don't see a reason to play the exact same content as last year's to get more roles. We got one, yes, a singular new Haunted Lost Sector this year, but nothing else was new. Now, personally, on that note, I think that if you buy the deluxe edition of Destiny, everything for the rest of the year should be free. Just my personal opinion. These event cards should be automatically unlocked. Rest of the Eververse items, sure, you purchase, but any event that comes through Destiny should be available to those folks that pre-order, and not only pre-order, but the deluxe pre-order, right? With that being said, though, it doesn't take much to make things more fun. The Spooky Trials change, although some people hated it that weekend, was something different and fun, and went along with the Halloween spirit. What if we reskin more enemies in game to match the Halloween theme? What if Hive Wizards had actual witch hats? Or all the Thralls had multiple Halloween colors and they would glow? This would change up how the entire game feels over those 3 weeks. A lot of us remember the mini Scream Nightfall modifier and how infuriating it was, but boy was it a lot of fun. It was creative and it changed how we played the game. It's the same story every event. We always look forward to new content, but to me it's just more ways to spend money, and that just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Now, a game that I actually loved every single holiday event for was actually Runescape. Runescape had some of the coolest Halloween events, Christmas events, and they even had Thanksgiving events. It was amazing. Always had a different story, different items. Some of these items were even tradable, things like Santa hat, Halloween mask, etc. And those items went up in price substantially as they would drop for a given year, and that was the only chance you would get to get those items. Personally, I don't have an issue with any of the items or the weapons that are dropping because we got a new origin trait, new random rolls on these weapons, and for the first time, 450 round per minute auto rifles are finally getting back in the meta. So things like Braid Tech and Horror Story are looking pretty juicy. But the event itself, to me, is the most stale thing about Festival of the Lost. Doing Lost Sectors that we already do all the time is so boring. I love the idea of walking through the last city and going trick-or-treating door to door. And again, we made an entire video talking about MMO aspects that Bungie and Destiny needs to have. And if Bungie wants to keep moving into this direction of being this large MMO, having fleshed out Halloween events and Christmas events and any holiday events needs to be something they invest in. At this point, I miss the Infinite Forest, guys. I miss the spookiness. And I don't know how many people at Bungie year actually brainstorming these events, but I don't think I can have another year of just haunted lost sectors again. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Again, if you have like an FPS background and you don't really play MMORPGs, maybe holiday events don't mean that much to you. I can't tell you how many countless holiday events I remember from my youth, from playing games like Final Fantasy XIV, RuneScape, Aeon, WoW. A lot of these MMOs, man, had very memorable holiday events. And not that I don't love Grandma Eva, but the activities themselves need to be more engaging, or in the least, thematically on point. Infinite Forest granted us that. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.